Hello, everyone, and welcome back for Season 2 of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. Here at the Wellness on Purpose podcast, we appreciate that there is no linear path along one's wellness journey and understand how easy it can be to get caught up in the latest health trends found on social media. Our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. Good morning, guys. Happy Tuesday. It's Marissa here, and today I'm bringing you another episode with a practitioner from Kawartha Care Wellness Center in Lindsay, Dr. Jillian Edgar. Dr. Jillian Edgar is a chiropractor and medical acupuncturist who has a special interest in supporting headaches, sciatica nerve pain, pre- and postnatal discomfort, athletic injuries, and office workers. In this episode, we talk about the things that we do on a daily basis that can be affecting our alignment and posture, which is very easy to fix. Jill gives us some incredible tips on how we can incorporate different mobilization and stretches into our daily routine to help alleviate long-term issues. We also talk about the truth of acupuncture, the little needles that everyone's scared of, and how it can benefit your wellness journey, as well as how Jillian ended up becoming a chiropractor. If you're ready to see if a chiropractor is suitable for your wellness journey, stay here and take a listen to Dr. Jillian Edgar. Hi, Jill. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the Wellness on Purpose podcast today. We're so excited to share with our community all about you and what you have to offer.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in. How about you tell our listeners who you are, what your wellness passion is, and what you do in the Kawartha Lakes?
Absolutely. So, hi, I'm Dr. Jill. I've been with Kawartha Care Wellness now for about 8 months, and it's been lovely. Everyone here is so friendly. It's easy to get to know everybody. So I'm a chiropractor. I have a huge focus in exercise rehab and getting you out of your desk chairs and off the couch, especially this year since things are a little slower than normal. But I treat everything from headaches to back pain to knee pain. Definitely seeing a lot more foot things lately, especially with flip-flops in the summer.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
So how long have you been a chiropractor for?
A little over a year, actually.
Okay.
Just coming up on a year in September.
That's great. Did you always know you wanted to be a chiropractor?
Yes and no. I think I've always kind of had a passion for healthcare and health and wellness. It's definitely something that I grew up with in my household. We were always on the run somewhere. I definitely have always wanted to be in the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. Initially, I thought about maybe physiotherapy, and then I had a chiropractor growing up that was really great and helped me through some sports injuries, which I really appreciated. So, yeah, they kind of struck a passion there, and I really enjoy it.
That's amazing. Yeah. So would you say that there's something that you see more common for chiropractor adjustments, or any trends or anything that's really stands out that you treat?
Yeah, I definitely treat a lot of headaches, a lot of neck pain. I see a lot of office workers, which is great.
So why so much neck pain?
So generally, I mean, everything we do, nothing is at eye level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're always looking down at our phones or our computers, or even different activities that we like to do, whether it's sewing or reading or even looking at a soccer ball. You know, everything kind of gets us looking downward. So I find that stems from a lot of neck pain. Everyone carries a lot of stress in their shoulders as well, which definitely brings some things up that way too.
Yeah. Now, when you say that people don't necessarily look in front of you, do you think that some people also don't move their head with the way that they're looking and more just their eyes, or does that have any correlation together at all?
Definitely both. I do find people are generally moving their head. It can be their eyes as well, but typically, even if it's just a slight tilt, it does put a lot of extra pressure on those muscles in the back of your neck.
So what are some things that people can do right away to help adjust that to prevent neck pain or head pain and so on?
Yeah, for sure. So anything where you're looking downward, try and adjust it so that you're at eye level.
Okay.
So if you look at your office space, for instance, typically your computers are sitting a little bit lower, so you could stack a couple of books underneath your monitor, underneath your laptop, just to get things at eye level. Same with your TV at home. You want to bring it up a little bit if possible. Stands that you can put your book on so that you can, read that way, so you're not, same thing, kind of looking down.
Yeah, I feel like during COVID, I saw so many people on TikTok be like Amazon must-haves, and like so many of them were laptop stands that adjusted based on the height that you were sitting at, and I was like, do I need one of those? But you're telling me I do. You're telling me I need one of those.
Well, I mean, start with something easy. Start with a couple of books.
Okay.
It doesn't cost you too much, right? And see what you think. I think a lot of people are switching from sit to stand desks as well, so that you can kind of modify throughout your day, which is nice as well.
What would be the benefit of switching from a seated to a standing? Like posture-wise, I guess.
Yeah, so everyone thinks that, you want to bring your shoulders back, head up, sit straight, but nobody sits that way, right? So I always say the best posture is something that's always continually changing. So try not to sit in the same spot for longer than an hour, hour and a half. So, if you're sitting for an hour, maybe you switch to a stand for the next hour. If you like to tilt to the right, try and tilt to the left. Just try and keep things moving throughout the day.
Now, if people have those, like tilting to the left and tilting to the right, is that just bad posture, or can that mean that there's something else underlying as well?
Yep, I mean, it could go both ways. Everyone seems to have a side that they like. Typically, I find people lean to the right because that's where your mouse sits, generally.
Okay, yeah.
You can buy a left-handed mouse, absolutely. But generally, they're on the right side, so people like to lean into that side. They like to put their arm kind of on the chair or something like that, right? So typically, I would say it's more postural that way.
Okay.
But you can have a curve in your spine, so you might have a preference one way or the other. That's possible. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's causing any kind of pain. Lots of people have curves and they didn't even know that.
Right.
So I wouldn't get too hung up on it, but yeah, usually postural.
So if you were seeing a patient, can you maybe walk us through what a protocol of that might look like? Like, is it that you would just adjust, or would you also do stretches, or what would be some things or different modalities you would use in your practice?
For sure. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Every chiropractor you go to is going to have a slightly different approach, which is great, but also it's tricky to get consistency where you go. So usually I start with a history and an assessment. So kind of walk you through what we think is causing it, different things that you like to do throughout the day, and how we can modify those activities. Then we do a bit of an assessment. So same thing, I kind of have you rotate your head, your shoulders, try and get a gauge for how much range you have, and then we do a couple of tests, just looking for anything that might be compounding your problem.
Okay.
And then we do a lot of stretching, a lot of muscle work, which is great. It's generally the muscles start there, and then the joints get a little bit out of whack when the muscles start to pull them one way or the other. And I absolutely do some adjusting, but it's totally person preference.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine as well. So we do some mobilizations, which essentially are just getting those joints moving a little bit, but not necessarily without the big crack, they call it.
Right.
Which is nothing sinister, but I can understand why people are a little nervous, especially with the neck. Yeah, so we do some stretching in-house, and then I give you some to take home with you, and we start to work on your posture generally. And like I said, we'll modify some of your activities and just find different ways to try and bring that pain level down and increase your function.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How important is it for people to do the follow-through of the homework?
So important. And you know what? Easier said than done, myself included. I certainly don't have perfect posture either.
Yeah.
And I spend all day working over top of other people. So I totally understand, but definitely it will heal faster if you can do some of that homework at home. Again, it's your choice at the end of the day. Most muscle pain will typically clear up between 6 and 8 weeks by itself, but if we can accelerate that a little bit, most people are happily on board with that.
Yeah. Is it possible to do too much adjustment or too much stretch or mobility? Is that a possibility, or do you see it more that people just aren't doing it enough?
It's usually people aren't doing it enough.
Okay.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't want to be doing it all day long. I typically try and start with 2 to 3 times per day, usually with a specific outline of how long to hold it and those kinds of things. I wouldn't go too much over that. Stretching is usually pretty safe.
Yeah.
Generally, people are a little more stiff. But there are some cases where people are over flexible too. So in those types of cases, we don't want to be stretching too much. Maybe we focus more on strengthening as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for our listeners right now, what would be a stretch or some type of movement that you would recommend everybody to be doing, regardless of where you are in your wellness journey, starting today?
Great question. Yeah, you definitely, those back of the neck muscles may become very stiff. So if you look down towards the floor and pick one side or the other, so you want to rotate, let's go to the left first. You want to rotate your head to the left, and then you're going to pull downward just a little bit until you start to feel a bit of a stretch down and through the back of your neck. And you're going to hold for about 10 seconds, and then you're going to rotate and do the same thing on the other side.
Okay. How often should they be doing that?
Yeah, so usually, like I said, I start with 2 or 3 times throughout the day.
Okay.
So try kind of in the morning before your day gets started, around lunch break, and then towards bedtime. And if you can do it 2 or 3 times and hold for about 10 seconds at a time.
Okay, awesome. That's easy. And most people can do that probably in bed, like as soon as they get up or before they go to bed, at their computer even, or eating lunch before they eat a meal. They could be doing that as well.
Absolutely.
That's easy. That's awesome. Okay, what would you say is one of the biggest myths in your niche?
Recently, I've been hearing a lot of people coming in saying that they've heard from their friends that once you start going to the chiropractor, you have to go for life. And I just kind of want to clear that up a little bit. So there's definitely 2 different ways of looking at chiropractic care. You can kind of come when you're in pain, and then we work through the pain, teach you some function things, and then sometimes between 4 to 6 visits, you're feeling really good, and then you go off and do your own thing. Then if new injuries pop up, you can come back. And then there's kind of the other way of looking at it, where if you're maintaining your care a little bit throughout the years, essentially, that we can maintain the recovery that we've made and keep it from coming back. So I have some patients that come every couple weeks, some that come every couple months, some come 2 or 3 times a year, and that's great too. It's just figuring out what works for you, how you feel, and I don't really push either one. It's a personal choice, personal health decision. So I just kind of give you both options, and whatever you're comfortable with, that's fantastic.
So it really, I guess, depends on where they're at on their journey, what
Absolutely.
they're trying to adjust, and kind of go from there then.
Absolutely. Yep.
So would you say that every client's plan would be different and unique based on their entire life? Or is there something that you kind of follow, like say you see the same people for like migraines? Is there like one type of protocol, or is it completely unique?
It's completely unique. Every person is a little bit different. Everyone's got a different, like you said, a different stage in their journey, everyone has different goals, different outcomes they're looking for. So I really like to customize my treatment plans based on those goals and where they're at.
Okay, great. And what other modalities do you offer?
Yeah, so like I said, we do some adjusting, definitely do some muscle work. We do myofascial release technique. So basically, I'll get you to stretch while I massage some muscles out. We do some home exercises. We do ultrasound.
Okay.
We do some TENS. We use a thumper, so it's essentially like a handheld massage head. So we use that a lot.
Okay.
And a lot of acupuncture as well.
Okay, and you're trained in acupuncture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that. What is that like? Like for me, I've only done acupuncture a couple times, and I was terrified the first time I did it.
Yeah.
For no apparent reason. It's actually, in my personal opinion, it was totally fine. But do you find that a lot for clients? They're a little nervous because they're needles? Or tell us about the experiences of getting acupuncture.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, you're not the only one.
No, definitely not. And actually, I'm not a big needle person myself, so that was an interesting adventure learning to do it as well. I would say the first appointment is always, it's the fear of the unknown as well, right?
Yeah.
They are needles going into your skin. However, they're very thin. They're nowhere near as thick, and there's no fluid going in like a booster shot at the doctor. So most people feel the initial prick once it goes into your skin, but after that, they're typically painless. And we can certainly move them if they are painful or it's not subsiding in those first couple seconds. Same thing, you just kind of let me know. We can pop it out just as quickly, but it's meant to be relaxing. It's meant to release some muscle tension, bring some blood flow to the area to increase some healing agents. But it's like anything else. If it's painful and it's something that's going to affect you down the road, then maybe it's not the best choice for you.
Right. But you would go through all of that in your client assessments of what's suitable based on the protocol, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
Would you sometimes see clients and they would do different modalities, or do you see them like one visit would be acupuncture, one visit would be adjustment, or would it be combined?
Yeah, so a lot of the time it's combined.
Okay.
We do offer different styles of appointments here as well. So we have some patients that come in and only want acupuncture. So that's totally fine. It's 15, 20 minutes of acupuncture time. Some like to split it up. So we do 10 or 15 minutes of muscle stretching, and then we do some adjustments, then some acupuncture. Or maybe we're doing some ultrasound, and then we're doing TENS or something like that with stretching. So there's lots of different treatments.
That's awesome. That's great. Give us a little background on what your health journey is like.
Best described as maybe a roller coaster.
Okay.
I am all over the map. I mean, growing up as a kid, I played every sport under the sun. Kind of came from a heavy hockey background for sure.
Yeah.
Both my brother and my sister played hockey growing up, so I was pretty much raised in the arena. But yeah, we've tried a whole bunch of different things: lacrosse, rugby, volleyball. You name it, I've probably at least tried it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You find what you're good at, what you're not.
Yeah.
But then, you graduate high school, you head to university, and you're out on your own.
Yeah.
Which means you're certainly not eating as well as you were at home, right? So that's when I really realized nutrition and the value of getting a healthy, balanced meal. You realize your metabolism definitely isn't as fast as it used to be, and you have to work a little harder at it for sure.
Yeah.
So I started going to the gym and doing some different things that way. But yeah, I would say it's a roller coaster, depending on what you're doing in your life. School has been a big piece for me, so it's been an adventure.
Yeah. And I think even with COVID happening, there's been like just people being off from work. There's a huge adjustment in many people's wellness routines. And I'm constantly trying to remind people like that is a temporary time that your lifestyle has changed. That doesn't mean it can't change again or it's not going to change again. Yep. And you just got to kind of keep going from that. So over that period of time, would you say that there's been something in your wellness journey that's been kind of tried and true to helping you, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, that makes you feel good about yourself?
Yeah, you know what? I think COVID in a lot of ways was really great. Not the pandemic itself, but the time that you got for yourself, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, how busy I was, how run down I was. I was tired a lot. Definitely wasn't drinking as much water as I really like to be doing. So sleep was something that I really found over a bit of our COVID break, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I really focused on, taking an hour a day to do something that I find enjoyable, I guess is the right word. So I've been reading a whole lot, which has been great. I haven't done that in years. Home workout routines has been a whole new battle because weights and resistance bands were sold out for months.
Yes.
So I learned a whole lot of body weight exercises, which is great as well.
Fantastic.
I teach a lot of stretches, but a lot of strengthening protocols. I learned a whole bunch of new things that way. And you really start to realize the value of family and friends and how social we are. It was just very different.
Yeah. And it's like funny because when you are told that you can't be social, you're like, well, how do I still maintain that social aspect? And it's like looking over the fence at your neighbors and you're like, hi, how are you? Or like you said, like connecting with family that you may have just like not necessarily taken for granted, but just not realize how important that relationship is to keep like strong and healthy and so on, right?
Absolutely. And all those nights where you were like, oh, I don't want to go out, I'm just gonna stay on the couch, and you're like, oh, I really wish I hadn't done that.
Every time you ask me now, I'd say yes, I'm going out.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So do you shop at Joanne's Place?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So what would you say is something in the Joanne's Place store that you would recommend either to your clients or your family or friend that you use on a regular basis?
Ooh, organic peanut butter.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Peanut butter is my favorite. So I'm trying to get a little healthier. It's so good, so creamy and rich. I love it.
Yeah, that's good. I find a lot of natural, and I'm not trying to be biased because I'm from Joanne's Place, but I've had a lot of natural peanut butters, and it's either like too oily or too gritty, too dry.
Yep.
But the Joanne's Place peanut butter is like the perfect consistency.
So good.
Yeah. It's spreadable. It's not too oily. It's not too dry. It's perfect.
I agree.
That's awesome. Anything else that you use on a regular basis?
Actually, so my sister just started me on, it's called, I think, deglycerinated licorice.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of heartburn. I have a very acidic stomach, so different things really cause some issues there. And I found that was very helpful, so I started taking that.
That's awesome. Like in the chewable tablets?
Yes, exactly. So that's been good. It's only been a few weeks, but so far so good.
That's good.
And I try and take a B vitamin daily as well, just
good.
Keep everything moving properly, and it's good for metabolism and those kinds of things as well. And fatigue, because like I said before, I just found that I was really tired, so I've been really working on that and trying to improve my nutrition.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Through your journey, would you say that there's been any type of barriers or setbacks, whether it is chiropractor school or your health, your lifestyle? What would that look like for you?
That could go a lot of different ways. I would say, so I'm only a year out, so everything's a little new. I'm learning all the time, which is great, but it also means I'm kind of up to date on the new protocols and all of those as well, which is really great. So I finished 8 years of school just recently. So 8
years?
Yeah.
Chiropractic school's 8 years?
Minimum 7.
Wow.
I chose 8. I just chose to finish my first degree first because I was always three 3/4 of the way through it anyway, and I loved it.
So also, there's not very many chiropractic schools in Ontario, is there?
Just one.
There's only one?
Yeah, one
Where
in
is
Toronto.
that? In Toronto, okay. And is that where you went?
I did,
What was the school called?
It's called Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College.
Okay.
Yeah. They like to stay up to date on the current research, what's new out there. They call them evidence-based chiropractors, which is great. Like I said, every chiropractor you go to is going to be a little bit different, but we're very rehab focused, which is great. But it's long days, a lot of class, a lot of labs, and it was fantastic. I loved every second of it, but it meant that your work-life balance was off a little bit. I mean, my social life was a little dialed back, and I think in the last year I've really spent time trying to get back into the things that I really enjoy. So trying to get some exercise, like I said, eating better, spending more time with friends and family, and just kind of realigning how my life looks.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So barriers, has there been any barriers along those years that you felt you kind of could learn or grow and optimize your wellness through that?
It's always ironic coming from a health program and then realizing how unhealthy you are, right? But just figuring out what health means to you, and that's different for everybody.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an Olympic weightlifter, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But there are so many different spectrums. Just get out for a 15-minute walk. Spend time with your dog. Go outside and play ball with them, or if sports is your passion, do that. If you like Tai Chi or yoga, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just finding what that means to you. Maybe healthy is just, eating a little bit better. Maybe it's mental, absolutely, especially this year. I mean, things have definitely been more stressful, so finding ways to do stress relief and those kinds of things, whether it's, meditation or reading or music, it's beautiful. It just finding different ways to cope with things, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
I feel like the wellness industry is adjusting. For many years, it was always like, how do you have the best weight, with the best strength, with the best look, with the best this, that, and what do you have to do to get it? Whereas I find like, since being off, they're realizing what's accessible to me.
Yeah.
What can I do now and today with very minimal space or resources or equipment? Maybe I don't have full access to a bunch of fresh fruits and vegetables because of shipment delays. Like, I think that time off has really allowed people to adjust what optimal wellness really means and how they can achieve it, because it's not really the same anymore. Like, some things just are not accessible to people anymore, and learning to adjust and make your way through that to find a new routine, I think, has been a blessing for a lot of people, at least.
I totally agree, and I think the extra time gave you time to refocus, regroup, get caught up at work, get caught up at home. I think a lot of people were doing closet cleaning, which is crazy but so satisfying. Just like things that you never have time to do, and you're like, oh, I'll get to that next week. Maybe I'll garden next week, and all of a sudden their gardens are beautiful.
It's true.
So it just it gave a different perspective, I think, which the world is so busy and so stressful. I think it was almost a good thing to come down just a little bit.
Yeah. And kind of back to what you said with stress and how you mentioned that we hold so much stress in our shoulders.
You bet.
So what would be some kind of cues that people would need to be mindful of as to whether or not they should see a chiropractor?
Yeah, so I mean, any aches and pains you have, we are your people.
Okay.
Physio is fantastic as well. I wouldn't say necessarily that one is better than the other. It's really just a personal preference, and sometimes if you call into our clinic, we can help direct where we think you'll do better based on where you're at as well. But pretty much anything that's going on, we can probably give you some tips, some tricks. Like I said, it doesn't always mean that adjusting is the way to go, but it is a lot of what we do for sure. Yeah. And we also offer manual adjusting here and impulse adjusting as well, so it's a little bit gentler that way if you're really worried about the hands-on adjusting, I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Really vast. Our scope is big.
Yeah. And I'm sure you work with the other practitioners in the clinic to help with, depending on what type of situation your client is in, whether they need to see physio or acupuncture or whatever that might be as well.
Absolutely. We do a lot of cross-referral with massage as well. We have 5 awesome massage therapists here as well. We have physio, we have foot care, reflexology. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great. And you're accepting new clients, so people can reach out and book through the Kawartha Care website app, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's great. And is there anything that you would need to know before coming to an appointment? Like, in the sense of, Should they be stretching before they come? Should they be doing anything out of the ordinary that they're not already doing before they come to a chiropractor's appointment?
Honestly, I would say don't necessarily start anything until you come on in, and so we can have a look at what's going on, because sometimes you don't want to stretch too soon. There are certain conditions where you got to rest a little bit, and maybe you ice a little more heat or before you get into something extensive as well. So sometimes it's just a good thing to come in and get assessed first. But no, you don't really have to do anything. If you're doing direct billing or insurance, maybe just checking with them. If you need a referral, sometimes they request that. But other than that, it's a pretty open field.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And is chiropractor appointments covered by any type of insurance and benefits? OHIP, what is that like for coverage?
Yep, so we are not covered by OHIP, but generally most insurance companies will cover chiropractic care, but every insurance company is a little different, so you might want to just check in with your specific plan before you come. Just if that's something that you want to use, absolutely, that would be beneficial, but other than that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So all of our listeners, they need to rotate their neck, stretch a little bit more. Any other pieces of advice that you can give to our listeners to improve their wellness today?
Yeah, honestly, just find time for yourself and just small changes. Don't start everything all at once. It becomes super overwhelming. You know, maybe you just start with one thing at a time, whether it's, setting your alarm to get up a little bit earlier to make time for yourself. Wellness can be perceived in so many different ways. Myself personally, over the last year, I've realized that I use food as a reward mechanism, so I'm really working on, trying to find new things. So instead of, picking up coffee every day, although I did today, today's just one of those days, but, maybe I take that money that I would have rewarded to food to buy a new shirt or, buy a new book. Just finding different ways to deal with your wellness. So my advice would be start with something small.
Yes.
If you want to give up pop or, find an alternative to caffeine. God bless you if you find one. Please let me know. Whether it's going to church or, find what works for you, but make time for yourself.
Absolutely.
Try and do something each day that challenges you.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners are going to love all that advice and a great run through of what a chiropractor does and has to offer. So that's fantastic. I will tag everything on how you can reach and talk to Jill and book yourself in. But for now, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been such a blessing to have you, and I can't wait for our community to get in touch with you.
Thank you so much, and go check out Joanne's. It's fantastic. You'll love it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share on social media that you're listening to the Wellness on Purpose podcast.